Peace. Right? What's poppin'? Right? Welcome back. Right? So, thank you everybody for tuning in for today's episode, right? And thank you for everybody who has watched the Voice series. Okay, that was a lot of channel messages that came through the Voice series. If you're new to my channel, I created a series called The Void, which I felt was very needed, and I was also channeling messages from Spirit in terms of how can we all go through this void and get through it? How can we all get through this stuck phase? Okay, so if you haven't checked out the Voice series, go to my playlist and my YouTube account and you'll see it, and just let them joints run. Okay, it may be very helpful for you where you at right now. But today's video, I want to talk about healing father wounds and forgiveness. I'm seeing a lot that's going on right now, and I'm seeing that for some strange reason in this particular era, the father energy is becoming more and more pronounced. And for me, a person who has dug deep into inner child work, I recently just came across some new discoveries, and also have some new real deep wisdom that I feel like people need to hear in regards to healing their inner child and also forgiving their father, and just coming from a different angle of how to really understand forgiveness, and how to have more of that connection with your father if that's something that you're looking to have. Okay, so this may be something that could be supportive for you. All right, so let's just get into the video. Okay, so I got my handy dandy notebook here, so I got my notes to the right of me, which might be the left to y'all, and let's just start with it. Okay, so I want to share how this was actually a few days ago, so this is still fresh. So let's get into it. So for people who may not understand, okay, I want you to understand, and this is for men. I want men to hear this, okay? There's a concept called the inner child, all right? And your inner child is an energetic entity, okay? We can call it a spirit, we can call it an energy, we can call it an entity, we can call it a feeling, we can call it a thought, we can call it a part of you. We can call it a version of you. This part of you, this version of you, still exists today. This part of you, this version of you, is the part of you when you was a child. And when you were a child, you embodied, you cultivate a certain level of consciousness, which means a certain level of awareness that you adopted, that you picked up, that you learned from, that you observed, between, say, the ages of when you were in the womb until you was about 9 or so. You developed this younger version or younger part of you consciousness. Now, this part of you still exists today as an adult. All right. And this is the part of you that still is tied to youthfulness, but this is also the part of you that still suffers with depression. Why? Is because these parts of you have never got fully understood, have not got fully acknowledged, is still hiding behind the scenes. In other words, when you were a child, if you got traumatized so much, you probably hid in your closet, or you hid underneath the sheets, or you hid underneath the bed to protect yourself so you can feel safe. That part of you is still hidden somewhere. All right. And it's important, it's very important for you to go back to that little boy. Okay. And of course, for the little girl who's watching this too, but go back to that little boy and help them. Pull the covers over the bed and say, hey, I'm here for you. What you need help with, what you need support with. You're protected. I got you. You don't have to worry about anything. What you need. You need love. I got love. You need validation. I got validation. You need acceptance. I got acceptance. You go back to that part of yourself, because that part of yourself is still yearning for love. It's still yearning to be seen. It's still yearning to be heard. It's still yearning for the words that, son, you are loved. Son, you are important. Son, I am proud of you. These are affirmations that we say today as adults, but that inner child, that little boy, that energy that's inside of you is still waiting for that. They're literally in an arrested state. They're frozen in that timeline, waiting for someone to come with a metaphor, an affirmation that's similar to a blowtorch to melt that freeze state, to get them out of that freeze state so they could get into integration, or let's just say into a whole body, or let's just say, to make it simple, to come back into, let's say, the world that we in today, recent times. Okay. So I wanted to share that concept. You can simply Google it, research it. It's a thing. But what I discovered is that it's not just only a thing, you can actually communicate with your inner child. And I'm not saying it to be on some cool shit. I'm saying that you can literally connect and communicate with your inner child. That is so important, because if you can connect and communicate with your inner child, that means you can understand why you are always conflicted, why you're always suppressed, why you're always sabotaging relationships, why you always feel needy, why you always feel like you got to control everything, why you always feel like you have to protect yourself every single time. These are questions you can ask your inner child, and your inner child will respond back every single time. You have your solution within you. You don't have to go to therapy. Granted, if you're in therapy, stay in therapy. But you can do this work yourself. Anytime you do any type of therapeutic work, they're always going to go back to your childhood. They're always going to go back to your adolescent years. That's an indicator that you know they're trying to talk to a part of you that you have suppressed. You can do that work yourself. Okay. Now I'm going to be offering workshops to help people with the inner child as well. So stay tuned for that. I'm already doing that. I just haven't done it on a larger scale. But stay tuned for that. And if you're interested in that, please drop a comment below, and I'm going to make sure we stay connected, because it's going to come. Okay. So I want to lay the foundation. So let's get back into it. A few days ago, got into meditation. Okay. And I'm going to speak very fluent with this, because this is how I literally interact with my inner child. Get into meditation, I connect to my inner child, and I travel to my inner child's world, because my inner child has his own world. So I get into my inner child's world, and we start talking. Now, before I start communicating with my inner child, the first thing I always do is I check in to see how they're feeling emotionally. When I checked into my inner child, when we met again, my inner child was crying. So, of course, just like a child that you don't know, you're going to console. You're going to ask what's wrong. You're going to get on one knee. You're going to want to hug them. You're going to want to have deep empathy and understanding for why this child is crying. Same thing you do with the inner boy and a girl inside of you, the inner child, right? So my inner child was crying. So I'm like, okay, what's wrong? What's going on? My inner child been feeling neglected. So this is just a little side note, okay? Stay with me now. This is a side note. When you stop doing inner work to your inner child will begin to start to feel neglected again. So if you start doing inner child work, for people who have done inner child work, you have to continuously do inner child work, because your inner child is literally responding to you. So if you stop supporting them, they're going to start to feel neglected again, just like your father or just like your mother neglected you when you were a child. Okay? So if you have children, you know it's best that you do not, or try not to, neglect your child's needs, because that's going to carry over to an adult. Right? So it's the same thing that's going on with the inner boy or the inner girl or the inner child that's inside of you. So fast forward. My inner child was crying because he felt like I neglected him. Now, to be honest, I have been neglecting my inner child, not on an intentional level. It's because I've been doing other things that I haven't been doing too much frequent meditations. But it's all cool, because I know how to support my inner child in that space. So I asked my inner child, well, what do you need right now? My inner child needed to feel love. That's all my inner child wanted, was to feel love. Now, this is where the story gets a little bit more interesting. So while I'm sharing and connecting with my inner child, I immediately start giving him love. I start saying to him, I love you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I was doing this. And I tell my inner child what I was doing, because after I gave my inner child love, I showed my inner child what I was doing. I've been doing a lot of, let's say, superpower spiritual activation work. So, excuse me, my inner child saw my empowerment. My inner child was like, oh, wow. Literally, because I could see my inner child. My inner child was like, oh, wow. Saw me, and he saw a different version of me. He was like, oh, wow, you look so different. And immediately he got excited. Okay. So he ran to me, gave me a hug, gave him a hug, right? And now we're back cool. That's how my relationship with my inner child is. So as we're still connecting, I start to question. I said, well, you said that you need love. Okay. Do you need love just in general? Because you ask these questions. That's why I asked them. Or you just need love from a certain parent. My inner child responded, he needed love at this particular age, at this particular time, from my dad. So when he told me that, I'm like, okay, well, first thing I said was, well, our dad can't really give us the love that you're looking for because our dad is not in that position anymore. So the first thing you want to, the second or third thing you want to do, right? Because I don't know how many steps I'm on at this point. But what you want to do next is you want to begin to grieve. A lot of us are stuck in these old timelines because we're still waiting for a parent or caregiver that we can grieve. I mean, I'm not sorry, that we can receive some type of love or affection or need from. But if that parent is not on that frequency, if they're not on that mindset, if they're not really trying to understand what your needs was as a child, don't keep trying to force that. That's not going to never happen. You have to eventually grieve and let go of your childhood. Your childhood is an experience that will never happen. It is lost in the X-Files. You can go ahead and put in the database, put it in the archives and say, you know what? That was an experience that I'm going to never have. You have to come to acceptance with that, or your inner child is going to constantly be looking from that, from the parents that you have in today's time. Okay? And so once I realized my inner child just wanted love from my dad, I started to understand more about what that looks like. So I asked him, I said, okay, so you say you want to receive love from our dad, but what does that look like? Okay, the little boy in me couldn't respond. Now, when you ask certain questions, sometimes the inner child's not going to respond back. They're not going to respond back. So I kept asking them. I said, so what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that look like? Wasn't getting a response, right? So the next step was, I said, okay, you say you want love. So I started, like I said, I'm holding my inner child close to me. So I'm verbally expressing love to him. But then I asked, I say, well, what is it about, like I said, what type of love do you want from my dad? Because this is where you go deeper and you share wisdom with your inner child, and you have the understanding that your caregiver, specifically your dad in this particular video, he can't give you love. Why my dad can't give me love? Because my dad never experienced love from his own dad. So how can he give me something that he never received? So I was telling my inner child, like, look, he can't give you love. He don't know how to give you love. But if you want love so much from our dad, well, let me express to you as an adult what my dad is doing for us right now. Now, this is important because your inner child has a certain perception of what love looks like for him, okay, or for her in this video, general, right? But you, as an adult, knowing that your dad does not know how to give love because his emotional body is shut down, he has never been taught or learned how to give love. This is where you bring awareness to, well, what does your dad do that is symbolic to love? So let's go deep into that. If you seek love from one of your caregivers, let's just say your dad in this case, and you know your dad don't know nothing about giving no love, I want you to pay attention to his love language. What does he do that is somewhat in reference to giving love? What is his love language? So in my case scenario, my dad cannot verbally come out and say, son, I love you. He has told me that before, but I could tell it's not comfortable for him, right? So he can't not on a consistent basis show me that love and affection that a father would do for a son. He can't do that. I understand that and I accept that, right? So, but I pay attention. Well, what other areas of my life do I find that he does express his love? My dad expresses his love in fixing any vehicle that I have. He's a great mechanic. He knows how to fix anything. I see that as an act of love. Where it's another act of love. My dad knows how, when I am traveling and I need a ride to the airport, my dad makes sure he finds the time to bring me to the airport. That's an act of love. When for instance, I'm still staying in the house with my dad, okay? My dad is paying the majority of the bills, okay? Or he's paying the more expensive bills, let's just say. So while he's paying the more expensive bills, that puts less stress on me for me to do what I need to do so I can get where I have to go. That's an act of love. So if you cannot get your dad to support those needs that you had as an inner child, as a little boy, a little girl, pay attention to the acts that he's showing you as an adult and allow those acts to be enough. Just my dad fixing the car for me, because I don't know nothing about cars. I don't know how to fix on no goddamn car. My dad know how to fix on cars very well. Just by him always asking, you need anything? You need anything? What's up with your car? Your car good? What about the tires? He goes out the way to make sure that my vehicle is taken care of. That's an act of love. And that right there is enough that I can take that energy in and say, my dad is trying the best to give me what he have, because he don't have a lot, but he have just enough for me to receive it and understand that this is what he's doing for me. This is his act of love. This is his love language. I will receive this and I will take this to my heart and I will appreciate this, because my little boy in me just wanted my dad to be present, and he just wanted attention from my dad. That's what love looks like for a little child. They just want the presence. They just want the affection, the care, the knowingness that they matter to their parents. But my dad is not on that frequency. He's not on that wavelength. That's not what he's on right now. My dad is more evolved now. My dad is older now, right? So he's not going to think like that. So he's thinking, okay, how can I support my son as an adult? I may be fucked up when he was a child, but how can I make up for it as an adult? If you see that in your dad right now, pay attention to those small steps, those small acts, because you can take those acts and say, you know what? My dad does love me. He may not have loved you or shown you love the way you wanted to be shown love when you was a child, but he's doing it now. That is enough. Allow that to be enough, okay? This is very important. I'm gonna use this analogy. If my dad only has $100 in his pocket and he hands me $100, I'm not going to reject the $100. Why? Because this is all that he has to give. And if this is all that he has to give, this is enough for me to cash it in and say, thank you, Dad, for these $100. I appreciate it. That's enough, because we got to understand something about our parents. Our parents didn't grow up in a cycle, let's just say, where they was aware of their trauma and aware of their emotions and aware of mental health. They was in the class where they had to do what the hell they had to do, and they did that. And that's how we came into the world, and that's how we are today. So the emotional component, the emotional side that we look from our parents, don't look for it unless they have started to say, you know what, I want to do some inner work on myself. This is why people at my age bracket have challenges with trying to understand their parents and forgive their parents, because they're trying to, quote unquote, but not really, force their parents to go do some healing work, or they want to talk to their parents about how they affect them as a child, and their parent keeps saying, I'm not trying to hear none of that. That's not their class. That's not their cycle. They're not there to do the healing work. You are there to do the healing work and end the cycle. That's your role. So that's why it's so important for you to know your role and understand how you got in the role in the first place, which was the neglect and the lack of attention and love that you didn't receive from your parents, and you give that attention and love and affection to the inner child, because that part of you is still present, and that part of you is still looking for it, it's still seeking it. And if it doesn't receive it from you, it's going to get it from your partners. So whoever you're in a relationship with, those needs that you have, you know, the laundry list of needs that you have, everything that you got on that laundry list, you're going to ask that from your partner, and your partner's going to say, well, that's too much, I can't handle that. You're too needy. That's when they mean when they say you're too needy. They're saying you're too needy is because all these things that you have put on your list, they don't know if they can actually accomplish it or support you with it, because it's kind of above their pay grade. But a lot of these needs, it's just not adult needs. It's needs that has happened to you or that you didn't receive as a child, right? So this is why it's so important to hear your inner child. Your inner child impacts every area of your life. If it's business, if it's finances, if it's relationships, personal development, you name it. Your inner child has been programmed, been conditioned. You have been given so much limiting understandings and perceptions and beliefs between the age of 0 and 9. Okay? So you don't know what's stirring up in your subconscious, but it comes out every time you do something, every time you try to expand, every time you try to make love, every time you try to connect to someone. Those beliefs are literally blocking you. It's like someone put the hands behind your back. You can't do shit because those blocks are literally, you could say it's like handcuffs you're putting on. You're arrested. You're in an arrested development state. You are stagnant. You are in a state of inertia. You are not moving. You are literally stagnant. You are stuck. Okay? So I want to place emphasis on that. If my dad has $100, then I have to accept what he gives me. Okay? That's so important. All right? And so where was I at? So understanding that, right? Pay attention to what your dad is trying to offer you right now, and let that be enough. And you take that energy, you take that knowledge and that wisdom, and you bring it to your inner child, and you explain to your inner child, well, look, let me show you what our dad is doing right now. Our dad helps us with mechanical things, right? He fixes the things around the house. He helps us stay in, he pays some of the bills in the house, and, he brings us to the airport when we need it. And let me place emphasis on the airport piece. Why is it so important to my inner child? Because my inner child always wanted to have alone time, always want to have a time where it's just me and my dad. As an adult, I'm like, I got to go somewhere. I got to get to wherever I'm trying to go, and I need a ride. That's the adult self, all responsible. But the inner child is actually appreciative of this experience, because you probably never had a moment in time where you actually just spent time with your dad. Let that be enough. I'm telling you, if you let that be enough, it will support you in so many ways. All right. So another thing. So now let's shift. Okay. So now you understand that when you get into a meditation and you start talking to your inner child always going to have needs. And you can ask your inner child, okay, so where are these needs coming from? Do you need it more from your mom, or you need it more from your dad? And of course, people are always going to say, well, I needed my needs met from both parents. But you have certain special needs that you needed from one particular parent. That's very important. You need to know what needs that you needed specifically. Because sometimes you may say, I just needed love. But let's just say your parent in the house was present and they gave you attention, but the other parent didn't give you as much attention. So what do you think you're going to want more love from? You're going to want more love from the person who didn't give you that much attention, which would be the one that was neglecting you. They both was present, but one was more neglectful than the other. So you're going to want more attention from that person. So your inner child knows, still carries the memory of, this is where I want that affection from. So it's important to know which parent are you seeking these needs from. And it's okay if you don't know what parent that you need to get these needs, satisfied from. That's okay too, because the inner child is going to have needs regardless. So just support your inner child regardless. So now that we understand that, let's move forward. Let's talk about forgiveness. Okay, this is something big, right? Because once you understand that your dad, okay, was limited, he didn't receive love, so he can't give love. But as adults become older, they start to kind of get settled in their ways to where they're not that very belligerent, harsh, very strict parent that they was when they was like younger, like when you was a child. They're more like, just don't got time for this shit. They more settled, They're more in they age where they like, yo, I ain't got time for all that. So you see that they're a little bit softened. That's the word I want to use. So in order to forgive your dad, you have to get into a space of radical acceptance. You have to accept everything that happened in that particular childhood experience between you and your dad in order for you to get over the pain and the guilt and the frustration and the trauma that may have been experienced. So in other words, when I was in this meditation, I gave my inner child the wisdom that he needed to hear so he can finally start letting things go. But it was still, this is the most interesting experience I had with my inner child. My inner child still was struggling to let go. He didn't want to let go. So I'm like, why are you still holding on to this? Like, what else do you need support with? Then I found out on the flip side of the coin, my inner child was holding on to deep regret, grudge, resentment, frustration, anger, rejection, okay? And I felt a deep, deep root in emotional neglect. I had got seriously emotionally neglected by my dad till my inner child was holding so much resentment and grudge against my dad. And even till this day, I can feel that energy still present within me when I'm having interactions with my dad. So I'm like, hold on. So as I'm in my meditation, I'm using certain techniques to help me let go of all this grudge and all this anger and all this frustration and all this trauma. So as I'm processing it, out of all those emotions that I just named to you, the one emotion that was so hard, it was like a goddamn piece of rock stuck in my solar plexus, stuck in my stomach. It was so hardened, was grudge. I had such a huge grudge on how I felt and my connection with my dad that my inner child did not want to let that shit go for nothing. I mean, nothing. I mean, he was holding on to that shit like he was on a roller coaster and he was holding on tight. He did not want to let go. And so I started to reflect a little bit deeper with my inner child. And I started to understand the grudge. And I started to understand why he had so much grudge. And you have to have that understanding. It's just not so much about getting into the meditation and then saying you need to let go. Like, it's done, it's a wrap. No, that is patriarchy. That's forcing yourself to trying to change something that doesn't require force. You need to understand your inner child. You need to ask certain questions to understand your inner child. I want you to look at your inner child like an actual child that's next to you. And if a child is crying, are you going to say, get over it? Why are you crying? It's done with. That's patriarchy, okay? That's not parenting. That's you trying to force your child to get over an experience that they don't even fully understand what they're experiencing. That's why you as the adult who's supposed to have some fucking wisdom, supposed to tell your inner child, or specifically tell your own child, ask them what's wrong with them. Ask them with concern and compassion so you can get to the root cause of it so they can actually stop the crying. And I say that with so much passion, enthusiasm, because I'm not a parent. But the way I see people parent their children, it is coming from a patriarchal lens. Understand your child when your child is crying. If you can't do that to your own child, don't enter into inner child work. Don't do it. I'm telling you. It's not going to, because you're going to literally try to do the same thing you do with your own child to yourself. Look at the results you do to your child when you're like that and see how they respond to it. One thing that we all done as children and as teenagers is we'll say, I would never be like my dad. I would never be like my mom. Impossible. You already, by the time you turn 9 years old, you already like your mom and your dad, because they projected so much of their fears and their beliefs and their thoughts and their opinions and their perceptions so deep into your subconscious. It's already present. It's already grown up a bunch of trees. It all got its own garden. It's all sitting in your subconscious mind. And so it's just growing and building and building and building and building. And it only shows, because you think you're not your dad and you think you're not your mom, it shows very prominently when you're in a relationship. And if you're aware enough, you're going to say, damn, I'm just like my mom. How did I get to this position in my life? Damn, I'm just like my dad. How did I get to this position in my life? Come on, man. Let's call a spade a spade. Like, come on now. We playing adult games over here. We straight maturing over here. I ain't cutting you no slack. So, anywho, before I went on my tangent, when you're in that space and trying to forgive, right? My inner child was holding on to a deep, 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 deep grudge. So I had to understand, like, what's up, bro? Like, why are you holding on to this deep grudge? And I was holding on to this deep grudge. It's because, truthfully, I wanted my dad in my life. I wanted my dad to support me as a little boy. I wanted my dad to come through and, we play ball together, or he has certain proud moments of me when I, stepped on stage, or I, got my first diploma. Like, I wanted those things, and my dad never gave me those things. And so I held a deep grudge towards my dad since I was a child, and to an adult, I still unconsciously, after, I've done the work now, but I was still holding on to that. As an adult, still holding on to that. So once I understood why my inner child was holding this deep grudge, I had more love and compassion. And that love and compassion was actually what my inner child needed, because at the time, my inner child couldn't express, or the part of me who was when I was a child, I couldn't express that frustration. I couldn't express that need to my dad because my dad was so closed off. I had no one to talk to. So after, let's say, 30 plus years, or 30 years or so, now my inner child finally has someone to talk to, and it happens to be me. So while we're having this conversation, my inner child is finally telling me why he has such a deep grudge after 30-something years. I'm having therapy with my inner child, and he's telling me why he has this deep grudge. So once I understood that block started to melt, okay? It started to dissipate. It started to get softened. It started to dissolve. It starts to become lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. Eventually, it's gone, okay? So when we talk about forgiveness, we are letting go of all the emotions that we're still carrying that is correlation to, let's say, the mother or the father and what they have done, right? Because it's really what they have done to us that we don't want to let go of. They may have verbally abused us. They may have emotionally abused us. They may have physically abused us, which I received all three. And I did not want to let go of that. So this is where radical acceptance come in, because at this point, I can't change that. I can't change what my dad did to me. All I can do is accept what he has done to me and know moving forward that will never happen to me, because now I am an adult and I won't allow that to happen to me. I couldn't protect myself when I was a little boy. All I had to do was listen. I had to listen and comply. Right? But now I'm in a space where, like, I'm a grown ass man. That we ain't doing that this time around. That's not happening. Now, granted, I'm not in that space anymore, but you get the point I'm trying to make. And so radical acceptance is key. Now, you have to take in consideration when you're forgiving someone, you have to go beyond what they did to you, and you have to look at it from a bird's eye view. You have to look at it like, did this person intentionally hurt me? Because that's what most people think. Most people are hurting people intentionally. No. No one is out here actually hurting people intentionally unless they are aware, like, say, I don't know, a narcissist or someone. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even like to use that word because it's been damn near abused in social media. But let's just say someone who is consciously aware, yo, I'm about to go over there and fuck some shit up. Like that, we can say someone's intentionally trying to hurt you. But for the most part, people are not intentionally trying to hurt you. No one's not going around and saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and rip that band-aid off you because I know it's gonna hurt. Like no one's not doing that. Everyone's coming from a space of unconscious awareness. They're not aware of what they do. And so in the Bible, they even say this: forgive people, but forgive them for what they don't know, because, forgive them for what they don't. I go, forgive them for what they don't know, or forgive them for they not know what they do, right? That is a principle of forgiveness. You have to come from a bird's eye view and start to see that my dad, at that particular time in his life, he didn't know what he was doing. He thought he had to do all those things because he thought that's what make a boy, and he thought that he had to be the disciplinarian, which he is, and he thought in order to discipline me and my brother, he had to whip us, he had to yell at us, he had to physically abuse us, he had to verbally assault us. He thought he had to do all those things because he thought that's what discipline was, when all that really was received on the opposite end was pain and trauma, right? But the work is already done. I'm not going to keep crying over spilled milk. What I'm going to do is I'm going to understand that my dad was also hurting in that experience. My dad also was ignorant in that experience. He also didn't know how to support a child and love a child. He never received it himself. So all he knew was to discipline, correct, yell, spank. That's all he knew. I understand that, and I'm not taking that away from him, and I accept that, right? And I also understand that in order for people to stop hurting each other, someone has to become conscious enough that they're hurting the other person, and then they decide to do the healing work to heal themselves, and then they embody a healed form of consciousness, and so then they stop the cycle of hurting other people. Most people don't get to that place. Everybody in society is hurting each other because everybody's hurt. Hurt people. But a healed person stops hurting people. Right? So once you get to that space of a healed consciousness, you have the awareness that your behaviors may influence, may hurt this person. And if you know you may hurt this person, you don't act it out. Now, sometimes, side note bar, you may do something that you don't even realize that you're doing that's hurting someone. We call that person being triggered. And that means that you ain't do shit. That means that you're a mirror to something that they haven't healed. So don't even internalize that. That just means they got more work to do on their end that they may not be aware of, and you just did them a favor. But outside of that, close out sidebar, forgive them for what they do not know. And it's not lip service. You have to feel also what you are struggling to let go of. Oh, shit. Oh, give me a second. I feel like I got snot. Give me a second. Brief intermission. Elevated music. All right. I don't know the elevated music. It's one of them on Jeopardy shows. What are they gonna call it? So boom. What was I saying? Forgiveness is not lip service. You have to feel feel the emotions that you are struggling to let go of. That's when you forgive yourself. That's when you go in and you say, I'm done carrying this motion of deep neglect or deep abandonment or deep rejection. I can feel it in my heart. I don't want to feel this anymore. I'm done fighting this. I just want to relax. I just want to let it go. I'm tired of feeling this feeling that I can't change because my dad can't support it. My mom can't support it. That girl who fucked over me, she can't support it. I'm just tired of feeling this. I want to forgive myself for this experience because I didn't know better. Because if I knew better, I would have did better. And if I would have did better, I would have avoided this situation of being traumatized. So while I was in my darkness, aka being in unconsciousness awareness, I suffered from being hurt by an individual. But also I was hurting myself. So that's when you bring that forgiveness, self-forgiveness to yourself and say, I'm done with this. I'm done with this. I don't want to feel this no more. And you let it go. But you, like I said, sometimes you can command the energy by saying, I now release this. You can talk directly to that emotion. You could feel it. You could talk directly to it and say, I am now ready to release this. I am now ready to let this go. I no longer want to carry this energy. You can talk to it now. But ultimately, if you just feel into the energy and whatever form of release that takes place, allow it to happen. If you start to feel like you need to cry, go ahead and cry. If you start to feel like frustration, you start to feel like you want to yell, go ahead and yell. If you start to feel like, I don't know, your body starts shaking, because that's what happens when trauma releases in the body. Your body starts tremoring. Let your body start tremoring. Your body is intelligent and knows how to process emotions. It's our mind that prevents the body from processing emotions, and then it gets stuck in the body. Once that trigger gets triggered, once that mechanism gets activated, once your emotional cycle gets activated so you can start to release the emotions, allow the process to happen so you can start to feel lighter. You can start to feel more happier. You can start to feel more open. You can start to feel more safe instead of triggered every single time and being defensive every single time. When you're in relationships, especially being defensive every time your partner's telling you something because it's something you haven't healed from, and you're projecting and deflecting, thinking that, oh, no, this has everything to do with you and not have nothing to do with me. If you are a man listening to this video, I'm gonna need you to cut that shit out. And this is not from a space of talking down towards you, because I also made a video. If you go to look at my Voice series, I talk about a lot of why not only women are going celibate, but also understanding patriarchy and making you understand that your behavior, just like a dog, has been compromised. So when I talk to men, I'm not talking to y'all to downplay y'all, to make y'all feel like y'all less than, because that is not the motherfucking case. You are everything in all things. You are love and divine love in all areas of your life. You are. You is. I am that I am. You're everything. Okay? But your behavior is what I'm talking about. Your behavior that you carry, the way that you behave in relationships and throughout your life, that's the part that I'm talking to. That's the part that we need to address. That's the part that we need to tweak. That's the part that needs to be retrained, reprogrammed, needs to be discarded. That's the part that I'm talking to. Take every word that I say with love and kindness, because that's where it's coming from. I went through this experience and I understand it thoroughly. And I'm speaking this to the men, like I said, more specifically, because this is where I'm guided to talk to the men about. We got to do better. And I'm in the same boat with y'all. I got the oar in my hand and I'm swinging with it. Where we going, Sway? Where we going? You know what I'm saying? I'm here with y'all. But this is an accountability conversation. I need y'all to do that work for yourselves, because y'all traumatizing a woman that y'all say that y'all love. Y'all sabotaging a woman that y'all say that y'all love. Make it make sense, okay? And I know why it don't make sense. I just gave y'all the whole layout of why it doesn't make sense. But I have to harp on this. If you haven't heard it from not one of your friends and not one of your cousins, your uncles, you're hearing it from me. You got to do that work for yourself, bro. You got to do that work for yourself. I'm telling you, it's damaging. This brain that you have, this behavior that you have adopted through social conditioning and a lot of childhood trauma is literally sabotaging your whole entire life. You don't even realize it. So on that note, I'm going to end off with this. Like I said, You are forgiving yourself and you're forgiving your dad. You forgive your dad based on the fact that you know he did not receive no love as a child. And so when he grew up as an adult, he didn't know how to give love as an adult. That is a fact. That is not an opinion. And so in order to forgive someone like that, you have to understand them first. Understand them first. And so once you understand that first, you can start to soften your defensiveness, your defensive mechanism, and say, you know what? I understand, bro. I understand. I understand now. And then you allow that to be, you bring that into your inner child awareness, and then that supports your inner child grip that they have on not letting things go, and it starts to soften their hands. And your inner child starts to loosen all the things that they're holding on to. And eventually your inner child lets go. And eventually that energy starts to move and enters out throughout the body, back into the space of nothingness. And then you're into the space of what we like to call healing. And then you can start to see a different perspective, because trauma colorizes your perception. Trauma changes your perception. So once you have changed the trauma or the emotional turmoil, your eyesight, more specifically, your perception changes right along with it. So you have different experiences. Okay. So I'm end off on that note. Okay. I think I'm in off on that note. I don't think I have nothing else to share. Heal the inner boy that's inside of you if you want to have healthy relationships. There's a bunch of resources on it. There's a bunch of books on it. There's so much resource available to you. And if you say that you want to be in a healthy relationship, and you say that you want to love your partner, and you say you want to not die alone, I need you to put in the same effort and the same motivation and the same consistency that you put into a job that you don't fucking like, or a lifestyle that you don't fucking like, into doing research and bettering yourself, learning yourself, to cultivate a new way of viewing yourself and a new perception and a new behavior. All right. If this message resonated, because I hope that it does, you know how I like to do what it do. If this message resonated with you, if this message resonated, go ahead and drop a comment down below. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm done. I ain't got nothing else to say. So on that note, I'm gonna let y'all go. Peace.